This is an end of the year garden update. It's pretty much done. We've been getting nights down in the 40s now. That's Fahrenheit. And what you're looking at here are Brandywine tomatoes we grew in 5-gallon buckets. And they did pretty well. The whole garden up here by the house only got fertilized once. I used fish emulsion. And we usually try and do it once every couple of weeks. And sometimes use Miracle Gro. Didn't use any this year. Sometimes we just use compost tea. But for not getting fertilized, I can't complain, and we really did ignore this thing. This is Japanese white hulless popcorn. I bought the seeds in 2013 and forgot about them, so we threw them in, and we're hoping that we'll just get enough to get some seed for next year. We didn't plant these till late. I think it was around August 1st they got planted, and we're just hoping that it'll get mature enough that we'll get some seed for next year. That's the only thing we planted in this bed this year. Everything else you're looking at is weeds. This is the Chicago hardy fig we planted last year. No fruit, but it's doing well. Hopefully next year. Now over to the blue barrels, starting with the eggplant. Nowhere near as abundant as in past years, but still fairly decent. 3 to 4 small eggplant per plant is what we ended up getting. Again, everything was only fertilized once this year. Now over to the next barrel, and in this one we have 3 sweet peppers Marconi and 1 ancho pepper. And in the next barrel we have 3 more sweet peppers, and they're called Carmen. And I was pretty pleased with all of those peppers this year. They did well, and they all had good flavor. In this next barrel we have some Scallions. The large ones we bought from the grocery store about 3 years ago, and the smaller ones are about a month old. In this last barrel are the red onions that survived the winter. That's it for the blue barrels. And these are the 4 trees I bought from Stark Brothers this spring. It's an English walnut, 2 hazelnuts, and a mulberry. And they will be going in the ground very soon. And these are the blackberries we got this spring. They'll be going in the ground soon also. They're Primacane blackberries, and 3 of them are thornless and 3 of them have thorns, and they taste pretty good.
It's pretty.
Stop, thief!
Now on to the barrels that are connected to the automatic watering system. And in this first one we had planted 2 Atlantic giant pumpkins, and we had a blight of squash vine borers, and I just never got around to spraying them or killing them, and they killed the pumpkins. And that's a volunteer tomato plant that came up there. And in the next barrel we have a speckled Roman paste tomato. Really didn't do much. And
these tomatoes are the best.
A sunshine gold cherry, which had a lot of tomatoes, and everybody who tried them liked them. They were pretty sweet.
They're sweet.
This next barrel had pea pods in it. They did well, and we had quite a few of them. And that tomato we threw in later is a German queen, but we never got any because the wild turkeys started pecking holes in them. And in this barrel we have 2 Amish paste tomatoes. They didn't do too bad. Nothing spectacular, but they were alright. And in the next barrel here we have 3 broccoli. They did well. Got an original cutting and several others throughout the summer.
One isn't our fault.
And in this barrel we have 3 cabbage, which you can see got devoured by, I think, rabbits and slugs. And in this next barrel, 3 more cabbage, and they're doing a little better. The last barrel in this row has butternut squash. We got 3 small ones out of it. Again, we ignored the squash bug infestation, and that's what happened to them. The next 2 barrels both had spaghetti squash and cauliflower in them, and again, these squash vine borers got the spaghetti squash. We got 2 spaghetti squash in total. And the cauliflower, I had never grown it before, and I won't grow it again. I just didn't like the way it looked. I never had the time to cover the heads, and they were kind of this ugly, awful beige color, and I just didn't want to eat them. Again, the next 2 barrels had broccoli, which did well, and doesn't look it now though, does it? And we have 2 tomatoes in the next barrel, a pink ox heart, which wasn't a bad tomato, and the Bloody Butcher, which was a very early tomato, and it's not a real big tomato, but it's a nice early tomato, and I'd probably grow that again just because it had fruit so early. In this last barrel we have a cherry tomato plant.
We did get a lot
I'm not
of
sure
cherry
the name.
tomatoes
It's
off of
either
this one.
Husky Cherry or Husky Red Cherry. Here's a photo we took earlier in the season when it was kind of at its peak, and when we took this photo we had already picked a lot of tomatoes off it already. It's an excellent plant, stays really healthy, grown it a couple times,
More to come.
and it doesn't get real big. Plant gets about 3 feet tall, but has hundreds of tomatoes. The next 3 barrels weren't planted in the spring. We saved some seed from the pea pods we had planted and threw a couple in this barrel here just to see if the seed was any good, and it is. And these next 2 barrels, last year when we first started putting this whole watering barrel system together, made a mistake on the first 2 barrels, and that's what these 2 are you're looking at. And we finally repaired them and put them together so they don't leak anymore. And these last 2 plants you're looking at are a German Queen and a grape tomato. I had mentioned that we had to repair 2 barrels I screwed up last year. Well, after we got them fixed, I still had 2 really scraggly tomato plants that were in little Dixie cups. So I threw them in this last barrel just to see what they would do, and we did that on July 14th. And they're doing excellent right now where the other tomatoes are gone by. I think next year I will plant a few tomatoes intentionally in the middle of July and see how that works. There is one part of the garden that did excellent this year. I'll put that in a separate video. Well, that's it for this one. Please comment, rate, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. God bless. Bye.